What's going on?
Today we're talking about new album from Bullet For My Valentine, Venom. Right. So this band, I think this band was in a tough position after they put out Temper Temper.
Horrible position.
Temper was obviously and most definitely their weakest release.
Yeah.
To date. People were not satisfied with that album. So this band was in a position where, okay, we got to put something out better.
Right.
And we got to come back and we've got to be, bigger and badder, like we were, back when we started.
Right.
So now that Venom is out, this is not the best follow-up to Temper Temper.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with that. In terms of Bullets, this is like 22, kind of like, this is not a very strong comeback for Bullet. This is...
Unfortunately, I don't believe that this is the best comeback that they could have made.
And, with that, now, that aside, let's talk about maybe why that is. There's not really much wiggle room for this band. In the position that they were, before they came out with Temper Temper, they had already been making, a lot of their material is very fast, like heavy. I mean, Bullet when you hear them. And they did have a very distinct sound to them for a long time. But I think one of the issues that this band has had is that they didn't really know how to grow. In terms of evolving their sound and evolving, moving where they want to go musically, it kind of stayed almost how Disturbed was for a little bit before they went on hiatus. A lot of the stuff with the material was starting to sound the same. This album is no exception to that. A lot of these tracks sound like
very similar.
Very similar. Old Bullet, I hate to say it, but slightly recycled material. A lot of people are going to be upset about that, but it just is what it is. One actually really comical thing I want to talk about is in No Way Out, which was one of the singles that came off this.
Actually, before you say that, now, first time I heard No Way Out, which was, I believe they released that in May as a single. When I heard No Way Out, I said, okay, this is promising.
Right.
I said, this album's probably going to be, way better than anything off of Temper Temper.
Yeah.
But we don't get that.
Nope.
It's a disappointment because No Way Out is a decent track, and it's definitely my favorite track on the album. So, I mean, continue with No Way Out.
Absolutely, this album is pretty much like flat soda. It's just not, something's lacking, like, significantly. And, so like I was saying, No Way Out, go back and listen to it because I'm pretty sure the chorus to it is actually the same exact chord progression as it's going to be made by NSYNC. People who like this are probably going to hate me for that. But go back and listen to it because it's basically identical chord progressions for that.
So listen to Bullet and then
listen to NSYNC and then tell me.
I guess he noticed it,
I had no idea why my brain reverted back to that. It was like a 90s tick and I suddenly was like, oh man. I was like, where did I hear this before? And then sure enough, I go back and I was digging around for a minute and I was like, shit. So, is there anything
I vouch for it. It does sound a little similar.
Is there anything this album does that's good? What tracks were good on this?
Obviously No Way Out, and Army of Noise is okay.
A lot of people that have been fans of this album seem to really like that track. I don't really get why.
I don't find any track other than, those two, or even just that one, No Way Out, to be, anything that's like captivating.
Right, and lyrically, it doesn't even have anything to help support it. Lyrically, this album is deficit in a lot of ways. It kind of piles on not only what was wrong with Temper Temper, but really, for some reason, emphasizes the point that this band has not grown in a significant amount of time.
No.
In the way that they need to. They really honestly need to take a tip from Disturbed. Once again, people are probably going to be pissed off about that, but whether or not you liked the new Disturbed album, you have to admit that the new Disturbed album was completely different than anything that they've ever done before.
Yes.
Now, that being said, I thought there maybe were a couple of good moments on this album, for a recollection of classic Bullet, and, as a musician, what things were kind of cool.
I almost feel it tried, in a way, I guess, this is debatable.
Yeah.
I think it tried too hard to be the Poison, in a way.
It did, and even the title, Venom, you have to, and this band has been guilty of doing that a couple of times before. I mean, even with releasing Tears Don't Fall 2,
yeah.
A lot of people were upset about that because, even though that is in itself a pretty good track. It reverberates to the, you know, people say that it's because they want to tell a story. Granted, maybe it is, but, you know, it can also be interpreted as, man, these guys are just kind of trying to continue on something that was like a big hit because maybe they didn't feel like the album was as strong, and it needed something to pull it back up. So, you know, in regards to that, let us know what you think about that in the comments, because, you know, it is something to think about if you're listening to this, you know, this or Temper or anything from Bullet. You know, how do you feel the band is growing or evolving, continuing their sound and their art form?
I feel that this album it's better than Temper.
Yep.
But in no way does it match up to what they've, you know, their past, you know, their other 3 albums.
I'd say, I honestly have to say second weakest album.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely think if Temper didn't exist, this would be their weakest album.
You know, even Fever. Fever's okay. Fever was acceptable.
Yeah, well, I didn't think there was anything too radically wrong.
I say Fever was definitely better than, you know, this album.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the other 2 is just, you know, I don't even have to mention those. Those are their best releases.
Now, were there a couple of songs, you know, we saw them in Montreal, and, you know, obviously they played a lot of their old stuff. They played Tears Don't Fall. They played all that old stuff. And, you know, it was really cool to see that. I was curious to see if they were going to take any new songs out. I'm pretty sure they did. They played like 2 new ones, right?
They played No Way Out. They played Army of Noise. I believe they played You Want a Battle, Here's a War.
Now, I'm actually really surprised that they didn't play Broken.
Okay.
For me, out of all the songs that were on this, Broken and Playing God, which was a bonus track actually that we hadn't heard before, but we just listened to it before we recorded this today. And that track was actually pretty cool. A little bit reminiscent almost of like a Breaking Benjamin kind of sound in the chorus, but it does offer something texturally that's a little bit different and diverse than the rest of the album. So, you know, that being said, it seemed to be that the tracks that they put out before, for the most part, are the ones that have been accepted from the album.
Yeah.
And that anything that anybody heard that wasn't on the album, or had heard that was new from the album when it came out, not so much.
Back to the drawing board.
Yeah,
you know?
Definitely. Back to the drawing board. Need to take your sound back and try to come up with something a little bit different. Bullet, you need to go back to the drawing board and come up with a new way to make your material a little bit more interesting. There's no other way to put it.
Simple as that.